Hi everyone, it's week 22 of the Book Thief Book Club. Can you believe it's been that long? That's crazy. So today we're going to read 3 chapters. The Long Walk to Dachau. Is that how you say it, Sasha, in English?
Dachau.
Dachau. Peace and the Idiot and the Coatman.
Ok, aujourd'hui c'est notre 22e semaine du club de lecture pour la Voleuse de livres et on va lire 3 chapitres. Ce sont la longue marche vers Dachau, Paix et l'idiot et les hommes en manteau. Et Julie va commencer.
Yeah. So the long walk to Dachau. Some people say that the truck had broken down, but I can personally testify that this was not the case. I was there. What had happened was an ocean sky with white cap clouds. Also, there was more than just the one vehicle. 3 trucks don't all break down at once. When the soldiers pulled over to share some food and cigarettes and to poke at the package of Jews, one of the prisoners collapsed from starvation and sickness. I have no idea where the convoy had traveled from, but it was perhaps 4 miles from Molking and many steps more to the concentration camp of Dachau. I climbed through the windshield of the truck, found the diseased man, and jumped out the back. His soul was skinny. His beard was a ball and chain. My feet landed loudly in the gravel, so not a sound was heard by a soldier or prisoner, but they could all smell me. Recollection tells me that there were many wishes in the back of that truck. Inner voices called out to me, "Why him and not me? Thank God it isn't me." The soldiers, on the other hand, were occupied with a different discussion. The leader squashed his cigarettes and asked the other a smoky question. "When was the last time we took these rats for some fresh air?" His first lieutenant choked back a cough. "They could sure use it, couldn't they?" "Well, how about it then? We've got time, don't we?" "We've always got time, sir. And it's perfect weather for a parade, don't you think?" "It is, sir." "So what are you waiting for?" On Himmel Street, Liesel was playing soccer when the noise arrived. 2 boys were fighting for the ball in the midfield when everything stopped. Even Tommy Muller could hear it. "What is that?" he asked from his position in goal. Everyone turned towards the sound of shuffling feet and regimented voices as they made their way closer. "Is that a herd of cows?" Rudy asked. "It can't be. It never sounds quite like that, does it?" Slowly, at first, the street of children walked towards the magnetic sound, up toward Frau Diller's. Once in a while, there was added emphasis in the shouting. In a tall apartment just around the corner on Munich Street, an old lady with a foreboding voice deciphered for everyone the exact source of the commotion. Up high in the window, her face appeared like a white flag with moist eyes and an open mouth. Her voice was like suicide, landing with a clunk at Liesel's feet. She had gray hair. The eyes were dark blue. "Die Juden," she said. "The Jews." Juden dictionary meaning: elend, misery, great suffering, unhappiness, and distress. Related words: anguish, torment, despair, wretchedness, desolation. More people appeared on the street, where a collection of Jews and other criminals had already been shoved past. Perhaps the death camp were kept secret, but at times people were shown the glory of a labor camp like Dachau. Far up on the other side, Liesel spotted the man with his paint cart. He was running his hand uncomfortably through his hair. "Up there," she pointed out to Rudy, "my papa." They both crossed and made their way up, and Hans Hubermann attempted at first to take them away. "Liesel," he said, "maybe." He realized, however, that the girl was determined to stay, and perhaps it was something she should see. In the breezy autumn air, he stood with her. He did not speak. On Munich Street, they watched. Others moved in and around and in front of them. They watched the Jews come down the road like a catalogue of colors. That wasn't how the book thief describes them, but I can tell you that that's exactly what they were, for many of them would die. They would each greet me like their last true friend, with burns like smoke and their souls trailing behind. When they arrived in full, the noise of their feet throbbed on top of the road. Their eyes were enormous in their starving skulls, and the dirt was molded to them. Their legs staggered as they were pushed by soldiers' hands, a few wayward steps of forced running before the slow return to a malnourished walk. Hans watched them above the heads of the crowding audience. I'm sure his eyes were silver and strained. Liesel looked through the gaps or over shoulders. The suffering faces of depleted men and women reached across to them, pleading not so much for help, they were beyond that, but for an explanation, just something to subdue this confusion. Their feet could barely rise above the ground. Stars of David were plastered to their shirts, and misery was attached to them as if assigned. Don't forget your misery. In some cases, it grew on them like vine. At their side, the soldiers also made their way past, ordering them to hurry up and to stop moaning. Some of the soldiers were only boys. They had the furor in their eyes. As she watched all of this, Liesel was certain that these were the poorest souls alive. That's what she wrote about them. Their gaunt faces were stretched with torture. Hunger ate them as they continued forward, some of them watching the ground to avoid the people on the side of the road. Some looked appealingly as those who had come to observe their humiliation, this prelude to their death. Others pleaded for someone, anyone, to step forward and catch them in their arms. No one did. Whether they watched this parade with pride, temerity, or shame, nobody came forward to interrupt it. Not yet. Once in a while, a man or woman, no, they were not men and women, they were Jews, would find Liesel's face among the crowd. They would meet her with their defeat, and the book thief could do nothing but watch them back in a long, incurable moment before they were gone again. She could only hope they could read the depths of sorrow in her face to recognize that it was true and not fleeting. I have one of you in my basement, she wanted to say. We built a snowman together. I gave him certain present when he was sick. Liesel said nothing at all. What good would it be? She understood that she was utterly worthless to these people. They could not be saved, and in a few minutes, she would see what would happen to those who might try to help them. In a small gap in the procession, there was a man older than the others. He wore a beard and torn clothes. His eyes were the color of agony, and weightless as he was too heavy for his legs to carry. Several times, he fell.
La joue contre la chaussée. Chaque fois, un soldat arrivait. Stay off, ordonnait-il. Debout. L'homme se mettait à genoux, se relevait péniblement et se remettait en marche. Dès qu'il s'était réinséré dans la file, il ne parvenait pas à garder le rythme et il s'effondrait de nouveau. Ceux qui arrivaient derrière lui, un plein camion, risquaient de le rattraper et de le piétiner. Le spectacle de ses bras douloureux qui tremblaient quand il tenait de se remettre sur ses pieds était insupportable. Ils se dérobèrent une fois encore, puis il réussit à se relever et fit quelques pas. Cet homme était un homme mort. Dans 5 minutes, sans doute, il tomberait dans un caniveau allemand et il mourrait sous les yeux des badauds qui ne lèveraient pas le petit doigt. Et puis, un être humain, Hans Hubermann. Cela se passa très vite. La main qui tenait fermement celle de Liesel la lâcha au moment où le vieil homme passa en tiboutant devant eux. La fillette sentit sa paume retomber sur sa hanche. Papa fouilla dans sa charrette et y prit quelque chose, puis il se fraya un chemin dans la foule vers la chaussée. Le juif se tenait devant lui, s'attendant à recevoir une ration supplémentaire d'humiliation. Il ouvrit de grands yeux et tout le monde en fit autant en voyant que Hans Hubermann, tel un prestidigitateur, lui tendait un morceau de pain. Quand le pain changea de main, le juif se laissa tomber à genoux et étreignit les jambes de Hans. Liesel regardait, les yeux remplis de larmes. Tel un flot humain, les autres juifs passaient à côté des deux hommes et contemplaient cet inutile et minuscule miracle. Ce jour-là, quelques-uns atteindraient l'océan. Ils recevraient une coiffe blanche. Un soldat s'avança jusqu'à la scène du crime. Il examina l'homme agenouillé et Hans Hubermann, puis se tourna vers la foule. Après quelques instants de réflexion, il détacha le fouet de sa ceinture et se mit à l'œuvre. Le Juif reçut 6 coups de fouet, sur le dos, sur la tête et sur les jambes. Ordure, espèce de porc, du sang coulait maintenant goutte à goutte de son oreille. Ce fut ensuite le tour de Hans Hubermann. Une autre main avait pris celle de Liesel, qui découvrit Rudy Steiner à ses côtés, en train de déglutir avec difficulté. Le bruit des coups de fouet la rendait malade. Hans en reçut 4 avant de s'effondrer à son tour. Au moment où le Juif se releva pour la dernière fois, il se retourna brièvement et lança un regard empreint de tristesse à Hans Hubermann, qui était maintenant agenouillé lui aussi sur la chaussée, les genoux douloureux, le dos zébré de 4 lignes de feu. Au moins le vieil homme allait-il mourir comme un être humain, ou en pensant qu'il était un être humain. Quant à moi, je me demande si c'est vraiment un bien. Liesel et Rudy jouèrent des coudes pour parvenir jusqu'à Hans et l'aidèrent à se relever tandis que les voix s'élevaient de tous côtés, des mots et du soleil. C'est l'image qu'elle en garderait, la lumière qui étincelait dans la rue, les paroles comme des vagues qui se brisaient sur son dos. Ils allaient partir quand ils remarquèrent le morceau de pain abandonné sur la chaussée. Au moment où Rudy le ramassait, l'un des Juifs le lui prit des mains et 2 autres tentèrent de s'en saisir à leur tour, tandis qu'ils poursuivaient leur marche vers Dachau. Le regard d'argent fut alors pris pour cible. La charrette fut renversée et la peinture coula dans la rue. On traita Hans Hubermann d'un ami des Juifs. D'autres se taisaient, l'aidant à se mettre en sécurité. Hans Hubermann, penché en avant, s'appuya contre le mur d'une maison, soudain submergé par ce qui venait de se passer. Une image lui venait à l'esprit. Le sous-sol du 33 rue Hubermann. La panique s'insinuait entre 2 allaitements. Maintenant, ils vont venir. Ils vont venir. Oh Seigneur. Il se tourna vers Liesel et ferma les yeux. Tu es blessé, papa? Il répondit par des questions. Mais à quoi ai-je pensé? Il ouvrit les yeux. Sa salopette était froissée. Il avait du sang et de la peinture sur les mains et des miettes de pain. Quelle différence avec le pain de cet été. Oh Seigneur Liesel, qu'est-ce que j'ai fait? Oui, je ne peux qu'être d'accord. Qu'avait fait papa? Alors, pour ce chapitre, ma question c'est: à quoi Hans vient-il de penser et quelles conséquences subiront la famille de Liesel?
And my question is, why did no one try to help the Jewish people being walked to their death?
Paix. Ce soir-là, peu après 23 heures, Max Vandenberg remonte à la rue avec une valise pleine de nourriture et de vêtements chauds. Il respirait l'air allemand. Les étoiles jaunes étaient en feu. Lorsqu'il atteignit la boutique de Frau Diller, il se retourna pour regarder une dernière fois le numéro 33. Il ne pouvait voir la silhouette derrière la fenêtre de la cuisine, mais elle, en revanche, le voyait. Elle lui fit un petit signe de main. Il n'agita pas la sienne. Liesel sentait encore ses lèvres sur son front. Elle avait dans les narines l'haleine de son adieu. « Je t'ai laissé quelque chose, avait-il dit, mais tu ne l'auras que lorsque tu seras prête. » Et il était parti. Elle avait appelé « Max ?» mais il n'était pas revenu. Il était sorti de sa chambre et avait refermé la porte sans bruit. Le couloir avait murmuré, puis plus rien. Lorsqu'elle entra dans la cuisine, maman et papa se tenaient tout courbés, le visage figé. Ils étaient ainsi depuis une éternité de 30 secondes. Définition numéro 7 du dictionnaire d'Uden. Schweigen, silence. Absence de son ou de bruit. Synonyme, calme, quiétude, paix. C'est ça, paix. Quelque part dans les environs de Munich, un juif allemand cheminait dans l'obscurité. Il avait été décidé qu'il retrouverait Hans Hubermann 4 jours plus tard, enfin s'il n'était pas arrêté, loin sur les bords de l'Enfer, près d'un pont effondré entre l'eau et les arbres. Il se rendrait au rendez-vous, mais il ne restera que quelques minutes. Quand Hans se présenta à la date fixée, il trouva seulement un petit mot glissé sous un rocher au pied d'un arbre. Il n'était adressé à personne en particulier et ne comportait qu'une phrase. Les derniers mots de Max Vandenberg. Vous avez fait assez. Maintenant, plus que jamais, le trottoir de la rue Hummel était un lieu de silence et le manque de pertinence du dictionnaire universel d'Uden, surtout au niveau des synonymes, ne passa pas inaperçu. Le silence n'était ni le calme, ni la quiétude, ni la paix. Pour ce chapitre, ma question, c'est pourquoi est-ce que Max a décidé de ne pas rentrer chez les Hubermann après 4 jours?
The Idiot and the Coatman. On the night of the parade, the idiot sat in the kitchen drinking bitter gulps of old Zapfol's coffee and hankering for a cigarette. He waited for the Gestapo, the soldiers, the police, for anyone to take him away as he felt he deserved. Rosa ordered him to come to bed. The girl loitered in the doorway. He sent them both away and spent the hours till morning with his head in his hands waiting. Nothing came. Every unit of time carried with it the expected noise of knocking and threatening words. They did not come. The only sound was of himself. What have I done? He whispered again. God, I'd love a cigarette, he answered. He was all out. Liesel heard the repeated sentences several times, and it took a lot to stay by the door. She'd have loved to comfort him, but she had never seen a man so devastated. There were no consolations that night. Max was gone, and Hans Hubermann was to blame. The kitchen cupboards were the shape of guilt, and his palms were oily with the memory of what he'd done. Sorry, my cat is just jumping on the printer. They must be sweaty, Liesel thought, for her own hands were soaked to the wrists. In her room, she prayed. Hands and knees, forearms against the mattress. Please, God, please let Max survive. Please, God, please. Her suffering knees, her painful feet. When first light appeared, she awoke and made her way back to the kitchen. Papa was asleep with his head parallel to the tabletop, and there was some saliva at the corner of his mouth. The smell of coffee was overpowering, and the image of Hans Hubermann's stupid kindness was still in the air. It was like a number or an address. Repeat it enough times and it sticks. Her first attempt to wake him wasn't felt, but her second nudge of the shoulder brought his head from the table in an upward shark. Is he here? No, Papa, it's me. He finished the stale pool of coffee in his mug. His Adam apples lifted and sank. They should have come by now. Why haven't they come, Liesel? It was an insult. They should have come by now and swept through the house looking for any evidence of Jew-loving or treason. But it appeared that Max had left for no reason at all. He could have been asleep in the basement or sketching in his book. You can't have known that they wouldn't come, Papa. I should have known not to give the man some bread. I just didn't think. Papa, you did nothing wrong. I don't believe you. He stood and walked out the kitchen door, leaving it ajar, lending even more insult to injury. It was going to be a lovely morning. When 4 days had elapsed, Papa walked a long length of the Emperor River. He brought back a small note and placed it on the kitchen table. Another week passed, and still Hans Hubermann waited for his punishment. The welts on his back were turning to scars, and he spent the majority of his time walking around mulching. Frau Diller spat at his feet. Frau Zapfel, true to her word, had ceased spitting at the Hubermann's door, but here was a handy replacement. I knew it, the shopkeeper damned him. You dirty Jew lover. He walked obliviously on, and Liesel would often catch him at the Emperor River on the bridge. His arm rested on the rail, and he leaned his upper body over the edge. Kids on bikes rushed past him, or they ran with loud voices and the slaps of feet on wood. None of it moved him in the slightest. Duden Dictionary meaning number 8. Nachtragen, regret. Sorrow filled with longing, disappointment, or loss. Related words, rue, repent, mourn, grieve. Do you see him? He asked her one afternoon when she leaned with him. In the water, there. The river was not running very fast. In the slow ripples, Liesel could see the outline of Max Vandenberg's face. She could see his feathery hair and the rest of him. He used to fight the fur in our basement. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, Papa's hand tightened on the splintery wood. I'm an idiot. No, Papa.
Tu es juste un homme. Ces mots lui vinrent à l'esprit plus d'un an après, lorsqu'elle écrivait dans le sous-sol. Elle regretta de ne pas les avoir trouvés à ce moment-là. Je suis stupide, dit Hans Hubermann à sa fille adoptive, et gentil, ce qui a fait de moi l'idiot le plus idiot du monde. En fait, j'ai envie qu'on vienne m'arrêter, tout plutôt que cette attente insupportable. Hans Hubermann avait besoin d'une justification. Il avait besoin de savoir que Max Vandenberg était parti de chez lui pour une bonne raison. Finalement, après une attente de 3 semaines, il pensa que c'était arrivé. Il était tard. Liesel rentrait de chez Frau Otzafel lorsqu'elle aperçut les 2 hommes dans leurs longs manteaux noirs. Elle se précipita dans la maison. « Papa, papa !» Dans sa hâte, elle faillit renverser ce qui se trouvait sur la table de la cuisine. « Papa, ils sont ici. » Rosa fut la première à arriver. « Qu'est-ce que tu as hurlé comme ça, Samensch? Qui est ici? » Le Gestapo. « Hansi !» Hans était déjà en train de sortir de la maison pour accueillir les visiteurs. Liesel voulut le rejoindre, mais Rosa la retint et elles observèrent la scène depuis la fenêtre. Papa, très agité, s'était posté derrière le portail. Maman resserra son étreinte sur le bras de Liesel. Les 2 hommes passèrent sans arrêter. Hans Hubermann, inquiète, se retourna et jeta un coup d'œil à la fenêtre. Puis, il ouvrit le portail et les héla. « Hé, je suis ici, c'est moi que vous cherchez. J'habite à ce numéro. » Les hommes en manteau s'arrêtèrent brièvement et vérifièrent quelque chose dans leur carnet. « Oh non, » fut la réponse. Ils avaient des voix graves. « Vous êtes malheureusement un peu trop vieux pour nous. » Ils se remirent en marche, puis pour s'arrêter juste après, devant le numéro 35. Le portail n'était pas fermé, ils entrèrent. « Frau Steiner, dirent-ils lorsqu'on vint leur ouvrir la porte, c'est moi. Nous voudrions vous parler de quelque chose. » Les hommes en manteau se dressaient comme des colonnes sur le seuil de la petite maison des Steiner. Ce qui les intéressait, c'était leur fils, Rudy. Et Julie, avez-vous une question pour ce chapitre?
Yes. Why do you think they're coming for Rudy? And that's the end of week 22. The question will be written in the post as per usual, and we'll see you next week for week 23.
C'est la fin de notre 22e semaine et les questions seront dans le post comme d'habitude et on vous verra la semaine prochaine pour la 23e semaine du club de lecture. Au revoir.
Au revoir.